The world will reward you if you're willing to be resilient. If you're willing to be a doormat, the world will walk over you.
What's up, captains? Now, before we dive into today's episode, I have a very exciting announcement. I am now officially accepting applications to work one-on-one with me in the next round of the Captain's Lifestyle program. The next group starts July 1st, and I am only accepting 10 clients. July 1st is exactly halfway through 2021. So if you're not 100% satisfied with the way the first half of the year has gone for both you and your business, this is the perfect opportunity to get things back on track. I work specifically with social entrepreneurs who want to grow their impact, optimize their work-life balance, and fulfill their entrepreneurial vision. We accomplish this by maximizing your health, happiness, and productivity. Over the course of the 3-month program, we cover the 6 pillars of optimized human performance: mindset and brain health, sleep, communication, nutrition, exercise, and biohacks. Basically everything you need to take you and your business from average to excellent. But don't take my word for it. Listen to what my former client, Nori, a financial consultant and founder of a nonprofit organization, has to say. Best decision of my life was signing up. Thanks, Taylor. I mean, come on. On average, my clients are able to increase their time management and productivity by over 300%. Imagine what you could do if you were 300 times more productive than you are right now. What would that even feel like? Well, if you're one of the lucky 10 who get accepted into my program, you'll get to find out for yourself. To start the application process, head over to info.thecaptainslifestyle.com and enter your name and email. Again, that's info.thecaptainslifestyle.com and in your name and email. All right, now on to today's show. Hello, and welcome aboard another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. This is your captain speaking, Taylor Morgan. On today's episode, we have another special guest. His name is Mark Struczewski, aka Mr. Productivity, and he helps entrepreneurs deal with the overwhelm that disrupts their focus. In addition to being a productivity expert, Mark is the host of the Mark Struczewski podcast and an online trainer. His strategies have guided entrepreneurs, CEOs, executive directors, business owners, and business corporate specialists to get back control of their time. Mark, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Taylor. Now, should I call you Captain Taylor? What do you prefer?
Taylor, yeah, Taylor's good.
Okay, I don't want to break into the rules as we start out of the gate. It's an absolute thrill to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's get into a little background about yourself. Just brief overview on the life of Mark Struczewski.
Well, I was an only child. I think after my parents had me, my parents go, "Oh no, that's one's enough." No, and so I grew up without any siblings. Good thing and bad thing, I got lots of presents. The bad thing, I couldn't blame anybody for anything else I did. So, yep. Back then we were allowed to spank kids. You can't do it anymore. But, I think I turned out okay. So here I am trying to figure out what I want to do for my life, working in the corporate world. Got fired in July of 2005. Turns out it was one of the better things that happened in my life. It was a blessing because had I not gotten fired, I may still be there. Now I got fired, didn't know what I wanted to do, became a wedding and portrait photographer, but that failed. But what didn't fail is I found this thing of speaking and training people. I really fell in love with it, which is really ironic because in high school and college, I didn't want to ever talk in front of a group. Now you can't get me to shut up, as you will be demonstrated. You get demonstrated here on the show. And so I tried to become an entrepreneur, didn't work. And then one day my coach at the time said, what's going on? Because I was really down on one of my calls. And I go, well, I want to help people train, speak, but I don't know what I should talk on. He goes, well, why don't you talk about productivity? And I remember saying to him, I don't know where that came from. Why would you say that? He goes, well, I know a lot of people and you're one of the most productive people I know. You should do something with that. And as the rest, as they say, is history. So here I am.
Wow. So first off, I want to get into just very briefly on you getting fired and then also quote unquote failing at photography. A lot of people would, first off, they struggle with getting fired, and that could be a very bad thing for you. But you use that to start your own business, which also failed. And then, so what is it about your mindset that, caused you to be so resilient?
Well, when I was fired, I remember the day I was fired. My boss and his direct report took me in his office and said, "Okay, we're going to let you go." And I got up to leave, and they go, "Well, no, we have to go through why." Am I fired? They go, "Yeah." I don't care what you say anymore because you're not my boss anymore. So I walked out. They're sitting there going, "Huh? What is he doing?" I'm like, "I don't care anymore." But listen, be honest, I was angry. I had to go pick up my wife after work because they waited till 5 o'clock to fire me. Apparently it wasn't that serious. And I picked her up and I was kind of steamed. But after a while, I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is my way to, like Mama Bird kicked me out of the nest. And I don't know how long it took me to get over that. But then I said, you know what? I always wanted to be a wedding and portrait photographer. Went out and bought all the gear. And I don't think my heart was in it. I think that's why it failed. But I believe that everything you fail at, if you take the time to look and go, okay, what can I learn from this experience? A lot of people, they fail and they go, oh, the universe is against me. I suck and all this other stuff. When you should go, wait a minute, maybe I should learn something from this. Look at all the successful people. They learn from their failures. And so every time I failed, and I failed a lot over my 55 years on this planet, but I learned. I didn't learn when I was a younger kid in high school and college, but now I learn if something doesn't work, I go, well, why didn't that work? That's fascinating. Let me try to figure it out. And I think that's what changed my mindset is I realized the world truly is not out to get me. The world will reward you if you're willing to be resilient. If you're willing to be a doormat, the world will walk over you.
Yeah. And wow, that's one of the big problems that I have with the whole, victim mentality these days is because of course you're going to get treated like that if that's what you put out into the universe and that's what you accept. Like, I forget there's like a specific name for it, but like if you want to buy a blue car and then all of a sudden that's all you see are blue cars. Yep. There's a name for it. I don't remember, but it's the same thing with your mentality. Like if you always focus on the negatives, woe is me, the world is out to get me, the world will be out to get you. You will have quote unquote bad luck and bad things will happen to you. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you choose to focus on the positives, like one of my mantras, for example, is I'm forgetting it now, which everything always works out for me. That's what it is. And so it's not like I am, the greatest of all time. It's just, no, it's like whatever comes my way, I'm confident that I can handle it. And if something goes wrong, that's okay, because I know that I'll be able to get myself out of it. Whereas, if you have that other mindset, it's like, oh, that this happened to me. I'm so, everybody's out to get me, whatever. So
yeah.
How have you used that mentality to succeed in, well, not the photography business, but now your productivity business? Because I'm sure it did not start off, as a skyrocketing success.
Well, no, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, when I hung my shingle out on markstruczewski.com way back in January 2011, I literally thought, I'm not lying to you or your listeners, that I built it, they will come.
I had that same exact mindset.
They did not come. Taylor, they did not come. I waited a week. I waited a month. I'm like, but I have a website out there. What?
Yep.
It's amazing that people don't come just because you build something. And now we're talking like over 10 years later. Now I'm full circle because I went there, I did the Facebook and all the social medias. And now I'm like, okay, you know what? I watched The Social Dilemma. I deleted Instagram. I deleted TikTok. I deleted Pinterest. I deleted something else. And I'm like, okay, no, Twitter. I also deleted Twitter. And people go, oh, Mark, you try to build your business brand. You need to be everywhere. And I just am watching, before we started recording today, I'm watching a TED Talk from Cal Newport. He wrote Deep Work, a fascinating book. He wrote Digital Minimalism, A World Without Email. He's not on social media. He's doing okay. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Snapchat because those are my two favorite platforms. I'm on Facebook for some groups, but I'm like, Facebook is on life support right now because I believe if you're amazing, people will find you. You could write a book, you can have a podcast, people will find you. And so for me, I'm like, okay, first of all, I believe you should do what is comfortable for you. So if you want to be on Facebook, be on Facebook. I like what Gary Vaynerchuk says. You do you. Okay. I like my podcast because now the hottest thing right now is Clubhouse. Okay. I don't want to be in Clubhouse. Well, you should be on Clubhouse. I don't have to be anywhere. Okay. Because you don't own social media. I own my podcast. You own your podcast. Okay. No one's going to ban us off off of the podcast players. We're not talking about controversial things. And so I like the fact I have every interview I've ever done, every blog post I've written. It's mine. And people have got to understand that social media is not your friend. Have you ever seen The Social Dilemma, by the way, Taylor?
I have,
Okay.
and I've got a few reservations about it. One, I mean, the main one, they say that social media is causing a lot of these problems. Yes, they are very good at doing their job, which is keeping people on the platform. But ultimately, I believe that it's up to everybody as an individual to choose. You're choosing to be on that platform. There's a lot of things that can go into that, as I'm sure you know, as the productivity expert.
Yep.
But ultimately, it's our choice. And then secondly,
100%.
when they say that it's, ruining kids' lives because the comparison aspect, it's like, well, you also get to choose who you follow. And, you can look at somebody two different ways. Like you can look at somebody who's got the quote unquote perfect body and is beautiful. They've got everything you want. You can either say, wow, I'm so jealous of that person. I envy them. And because of that, I hate them. And I'm going to, hate myself because of that. Or you could say, wow, I see that is now possible because of where they came from. And now I can start to strive to achieve that. So I think there's two different mindsets. I don't think it's social media. Social media just is, as Shakespeare says, there's no good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So it depends, again, on if you're in that victim mentality or not. But I thought overall it was a great show.
I agree with you with your assessment there. The one line that really keeps banging around my head, that if you are not paying for the product, you are the product. And this is coming to a head now. I'm a big Apple guy. iOS 14.5, which I already have the beta, by the way. They are going to block all the tracking from all the social media sites. Mark Zuckerberg is losing his mind. Now, Mark Zuckerberg is in a tough position. He can't pull Facebook off of iPhones. That'd be suicide. But he can't track people on iPhones. And I'm at the point now, like I have one client left on WhatsApp. I said, dude, at the end of today, I'm getting rid of WhatsApp. I don't trust Facebook. Okay. I like LinkedIn. I like the fact that Snapchat, they're not the greatest companies in the world, but they're also not owned by Facebook. Now, you can make a case about Microsoft on LinkedIn. I get all that. But I think to your point, you've got to make your own decision. Don't let me or Taylor or Gary Vaynerchuk or anybody else tell you what you should do. If you don't like to be tracked, then don't be on social media. My point is that you can be successful if you're willing to put the work on and never be on social media. There is a way. Now, it may take you longer. You may have to do more work, but a lot of people go on social media, think it's the magic bullet. It's not the magic bullet. I guarantee you, if the listener goes on there and just puts cat pictures on there all day long, not going to make a difference. You got to add value. So I think that social media is, I don't think we should regulate social media. I think people are going to vote when they're educated, they're going to say, okay, this decision I'm going to make for me. Now, as a productivity guy, I don't like the endless scrolling on social media. You never run out of something to watch on Netflix or on Amazon Prime Video or on Facebook or YouTube. That's by design. And so as a productivity guy, I don't recommend people have social media apps. I have LinkedIn and Snapchat. I don't have Facebook and all that stuff on my phone because it's so addicting. I want you to do work that's going to move the needle for you to be more productive. I don't want you to be watching videos endlessly on YouTube.
Agreed. So let's debate this for a second, because I tell people that if you want to grow a successful business, you have to be kind of omnipresent on all these different platforms. But I also agree to what you're saying. It's possible to build a successful business and not be on social media. But I think it depends on what type of business you're running. Like if you're building a personal brand because people buy you first before they buy your product most of the time, I think that by being on social media, especially being an early adopter on new platforms, I think that can skyrocket your growth, because Instagram, Facebook, all the big ones are now 100% pay to play. So if you're a new company just trying to get your message out there, you're basically going to have to pay for ads. But have you heard of BitClout?
I've heard that a couple times, but I'm not familiar with it, what it is.
So BitClout is essentially a decentralized social media platform. It's basically a Twitter, but decentralized, meaning it's on the blockchain and there is no, big owner that can shut down your platform and decrease your reach. Oh, okay. So I think that BitClout will be like the next biggest thing. It's in the very early infancy stages. I think it's only about a month old. Wow. So yeah, so it's got a long ways to go. And then also for you, I think could be good to get on BizFluence. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
BizFluence is essentially a LinkedIn. So, but I think it could be better than LinkedIn. I actually interviewed the co-founder on my podcast a few days ago. You can post in specific channels. Like for me, I can post in the health and fitness channel or the like environmental channel. And so only those people will see it. And there's a channel for politics. And so if you don't want to be offended by left-right politics, you just don't follow the politics account. And my first post on there got a bunch of traction, and I booked a few podcast guests on that. Wow. So I think social media is good as long as you use it, smartly, as long as you don't let it take over your life. And my girlfriend said that her best friend during lockdown actually spent 11 hours, not just on her phone, on TikTok alone in one day. And so if you use social media like that, not for business purposes, but you just let it consume your life, yes, it's 100% bad. So I just think that there's ways to use it strategically.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. So I am not addicted to social media. So I like following Barstool, easy for me to say, Barstool Sports on Snapchat. Okay. But you know what? I don't go every morning go, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can put the phone down. I'm not addicted to it. Okay. I think the problem is it's like I'm big on LinkedIn. I have thousands of followers on LinkedIn. Okay. The number of followers I have is not important. What's important is the revelation for me is when I stopped collecting likes and views and comments and shares and just started posting stuff that I was passing about. A lot of people are going, well, what does the algorithm want? No. If you want to post something, whether it's about productivity or I'm a daily runner, and believe me, there's other people on the platform want to hear about it. Too many people are trying to overthink it or worry about the algorithm things. Just post like Gary Vaynerchuk. I saw a video from him a couple of weeks ago. He said, look, stop trying to figure things out. Just post what's on your heart. Don't worry who's going to like it, because a lot of people think Gary has always gotten millions of likes. When he started his first YouTube channel, nobody watched it. Yep. And we don't see that. We see Gary Vaynerchuk now. We see Tony Robbins now. But back in the day, no one knew who they were. And I think it's more about being consistent and being genuine. So I got rid of TikTok because it's more of a creative platform. Okay. I was on it for like 6 months. Nothing happened. Twitter is too divisive. Instagram is oversaturated. So what my approach is I went really deep on LinkedIn. Okay. But for my fun platform, I go to Snapchat. Number one, I hadn't been on Snapchat in 3 years. Okay. Then I heard Gary says he thinks Snapchat's coming back in 2021. So I downloaded the app. It's totally changed. You got profiles. You can pin, you can save stuff to your profile now. That's all changed.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy cow. And I'm getting people to come on Snapchat now because it's a really fun platform. I mean, because before you couldn't pin, there's no profiles. Now you have your own profile. And that's where I go for fun. Now, my number one thing every day is not to go on social media. My number one day, obviously, I've got the podcast. I got coaching clients to take care of. Social media is important, but it's not the number one priority. And I think, to your point, a lot of these places are pay to play now. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, if you're not paying them money, no one's seeing your stuff. Maybe one or two people because it's oversaturated. I don't think LinkedIn's there yet. But I'm definitely going to check out BitClout and BizFluence because I think it's time to stir up the pot. We haven't had something really new in a couple of years. I mean, TikTok's been out. It was Musical.ly before that. We need something new. And I think that's one of the things that I think would be smart with social media is coming up with new. For example, people are tired of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. So you got Signal, you got Telegram, you got Viber, you got Dust, which Mark Cuban created. So you got to keep innovating. And I think we're in a lull right now, and I don't count Clubhouse because now, of course, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn are all going to copy Clubhouse. Clubhouse is going to go away in a couple months now. It's too bad for them because I'm a capitalist at heart. But I think we need to have something new, and I'm glad to hear about BitClout and BizFluence. I am definitely going to check those out when we're done with this podcast today.
Sweet. I think a good place to take it from here would be what you mentioned is like social media can be important, but it's not, the most important thing. And I think a lot of people nowadays are waking up and the first thing they're doing is checking their phone.
Yep.
They're looking at notifications. And I always say that if the first thing you do is check your phone, you're not living your life. You're letting other people dictate
100%.
Your life. So I'm sure you as a productivity coach have a whole bunch of different views on that. So,
absolutely.
Let's get into that a little bit. What would you say to somebody who the first thing they do is look at their phone?
You need to guard the first 60 to 90 minutes of your day because you just woke up. Hopefully you got a good night's sleep. And to your point, Taylor, you don't want to pick that phone up and get, oh man, this person lost their job at work, because now you're already in a bad frame of mind. So I say you got to be very intentional. So when I wake up first thing in the morning, I'm a member of the 5 a.m. club. And so within 15 minutes, I'm outside doing a brisk walk around my block area. It's dark for 20 minutes to raise my heart rate, get a little sweat going. Apparently it purges the cortisol, right? So what I do is I wake up, pick up my phone, check the weather. Okay. I need to know if it's cold outside, is it raining? And then I put it back down again. Okay. Then when I come back, I read the Bible every day. I write my bullet journal every day. I do some other things, planning the day and stuff like that every day. And I don't rush the morning. Now, I know some people listening to this conversation, they have kids or maybe have the in-laws living, whatever the case may be, but maybe you get up a little earlier, but you need to guard that first 60 to 90 minutes. And if you say it's too much, then guard the first 30 minutes. Okay. And you do that by not picking up the phone. There's nothing you need to check on the phone. Nothing. There's no Facebook post or Instagram post or a story you need to watch or email you need to check. I know people check, I'm a CEO, I check email. No, you could do that after you let your body transition from sleep to waking up. Do something that's going to inspire you. Maybe it's read Think and Grow Rich or a Dale Carnegie book or something that's going to uplift you. You want to fill your heart and your head with that stuff first thing in the morning, not grab the phone. Because to your point, when you pick up that phone, you have no idea what you're going to look at, and it could ruin your day. It could start your day out bad, and it can get from bad to worse. And so I always tell people, if you have to get up early, but start today on your terms. It's really super important.
Yeah. And that's, the captain's lifestyle. I like to say, become the captain of your own life. And if you wake up, the first thing you do is check your phone, you're not the captain of your own life. You're letting other people dictate your decisions. Yep. And I like to say that your morning is sacred. And so in my program, I talk about creating a morning ritual and an evening ritual. Yes. And I choose the term ritual as opposed to routine because I think ritual adds a little bit of extra, sacredness to it. Because it truly is that important. Starting your morning off at, by doing things that bring you closer to your goals, not reacting to other people's goals.
And I want to say, you said something very important. I believe that evening rituals or routines set you up for a good morning and a good day.
Absolutely.
So if you're on screens right up until your head hits the pillow, that's not what we're talking about. I cut screens off at least an hour before my head hits the pillow. I read a print book. My body knows that when I sit down in the chair next to my nightstand and I have a 40-watt yellow light bulb, just barely enough to read the book, my body knows, okay, screens are off. He's brushed his teeth. He's reading a print book, and my body will naturally wind down. I do that every single day, even on vacation. That's the signal to my body. Okay, it's time to get ready for sleep. If you're watching TV or playing video games or on social media right up to bed, your body is getting those dopamine hits. You're not going to fall asleep. And you say, I sleep fine. Yeah, I want to see a sleep tracker on you. I want to see how well you're sleeping, because I've not met a single person who is on screens right to bedtime and sleeps well. They may get the sleep, but their sleep is really light.
100%. And I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people think that they can, quote unquote, sleep just fine if they had coffee at 5 p.m. or they're on screens up until they go to bed. And it's just not the case. Like
Nope.
you said, yeah, you might go to sleep, but like you mentioned, the sleep tracker, if we look at the quality of your sleep, and I have all my clients, I use the Whoop. So I have my clients use the Whoop sleep tracker, which also tracks activity levels. I can monitor their levels of deep sleep and REM sleep. And then they have a little feature in there that's called the journal. And so you can say, okay, did you put on your blue light blocking glasses? Did you take magnesium before bed? Did you smoke anytime during the day? Did you all these different metrics? And then based on that, we can see, okay, when you drink alcohol, your deep sleep reduces by 20%. And that is an amazing tool to use for productivity, which we can get into that a little bit later, the effect that sleep has on productivity. Yo, Taylor here. So I'm sure you've heard me harp on sleep and basically every single podcast and video that I put out, because it truly is that important. And I'm excited to announce that I've created something very simple and very tactical that you guys can use to start improving your sleep immediately. In fact, it is the fastest way to improve the quality of your sleep and therefore the quality of your life, with amazing results after just one single night of implementation. Seriously, this is the same nightly ritual that I personally use, and it's the same strategy that I teach all of my high-performing clients in the Captain's Lifestyle program. It's the 4-3-2-1-30 method, and I'm giving it away to you guys for free. All you have to do is follow the link in my Instagram bio or in the show notes of this podcast, and I'll send it over so you can start sleeping better tonight. But please do not sleep on this offer. It's literally free. So no excuses. Go do it, and sweet dreams. You mentioned email in the as part of people's, wake up protocol. A lot of people check their email. I actually had a client who he kind of halfway jokingly said, I use email as my alarm clock. And yeah. And so that was at the beginning of the program. And then when he finished, we recorded a podcast, and the title of it was like Email Alarm Clock to Living the Captain's Lifestyle. And within the first, week of the program, because one of the first things we do is have people track their time, like what you're doing each hour of the day. And he was on autopilot. He almost didn't even realize that he was just so reactive to his phone. And, as soon as we switched that one thing, it was like this whole new world opened up, and he was able to get more done in less time. And it's amazing. So,
what's interesting about time tracking is a lot of people keep things in their head. I'm like, oh, I'm not spending that much time on social media, or I'm not spending that much time goofing off. Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And when you write it down, it becomes real. The problem is, people are telling themselves stories. Oh, I'm not that bad. I'm not bad like they are. When you write it down, I tell people, write it down. Then it becomes real. And I think a lot of people, like my clients, they resist it because they know once they write it down, it becomes real. So they tell themselves these stories. Oh, I was only on Facebook for like 5 minutes. You were not on Facebook 5 minutes.
They don't want to see it.
Yeah, okay. You got an iPhone? You got screen time, Tremont? Let me see your. Well, I gotta go. It's like, because look you're not hurting me, because I know how to be productive. When you lie and you lie to yourself, you're hurting yourself. You're hurting your productivity. You're hurting your mindset. We as coaches are here to help you.
So let's get into the productivity side of things. What would you say is the number one thing from a productivity standpoint that you could implement?
I used to say planning. I have the saying, tell your time where to go instead of wondering where it went. But now I've actually changed it to saying you need to take micro breaks whenever and as often as you need them. Now, what is a micro break? A micro break is a short break where you get up from your work area. I don't care where you are. You physically get up from your work area and you walk outside. I don't care if it's hot or cold. Don't stand out in the rain or a thunderstorm. Go someplace quiet. Not on your technology. I don't want you thinking about what you're working on, what you did work on, what you're going to work on, the office politics. I want you just to let that all go. Close your eyes and do some deep breaths. Okay. It's amazing what that simple exercise will do. I had a client who was an HR director, And if you're not familiar with HR directors, they get like hit with fiery arrows all day long. And so I told her this. I said, "This is what I want you to do." And she goes, 5-10 minutes. How's that going to affect my day? I'm like, humor me. Before our next call, I want you to go do it. She goes, okay, I'll do it. The next call, she goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe what that 10-minute break did. And one of the things I try to get people to do is, when you're working on a project and you see the finish line, but you're getting overwhelmed, you're getting frustrated, you're getting stressed. I say, go take a break, a micro break. And they're like, but I can see the finish line. No, trust me.
That's when it's most important.
Do you want to be crawling over the finish line, or do you want to sail through the finish line? And they go, the ones who listen to me, they go and take a micro break, come back, and they sail through the finish line, because now, yes, they're that close, but do you want to finish strong, or do you want to finish barely limping across the finish line? And so my number one tip is take micro breaks. And how do you know when you take a micro break? Listen to your body. If you start feeling stressed, you start feeling tense, you start feeling overwhelmed, that's your body saying, hey, listen, I need a 5-minute break away from this stuff, away from technology, away from the problems. I need to go be quiet for 5 minutes. Listen, your body will tell you, you know this, Taylor, your body will tell you when, hey, I need a break. Listen to your body. And the thing is, we're not talking about narcotics. You can take as many micro breaks you want during the day. If you work for a corporation, all you got to do is explain to your employer, hey, this is going to make me a better employee, which means I'll be doing better work for you, which affects your bottom line. So this is not something that's a taboo.
Yeah. And it's usually when you don't want to take a micro break, when you probably should take a break. Because like you mentioned, you're close to the finish line, you can see it, but you're so stressed out. And it's like, you just want to keep going because you're so close. That's when you should take a break. Or when you're stressed out, in traffic, for example, like people get so stressed out in traffic and they get this road rage. And it's like, okay, maybe that's time to where you just relax, take a few deep breaths. So do you have any specific breathing protocols that you suggest your clients do?
One of the things I learned from reading Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk, he talks about this meditation that you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds. So I try when I'm stressed, I try to do that, but you don't have to do the 4-4-4-4. If you just like I said, get up from your work area. Now, if you're driving, you can still do this. Don't close your eyes. But what I encourage you to do is turn the radio off. If someone's talking in the car, say, look, I need a couple minutes just to decompress here. You could do this. Keep your eyes on the road. Just breathe in deeply and breathe out slowly. Okay. Let your body, because when you do that, your brain's going, and your brain doesn't need a 3-hour break. A 5-minute, a 3-minute break, couple deep breaths, does wonders for your brain. But the problem is we just keep going and going and going. And the problem is if you don't take a break, you're going to have a breakdown. We don't want you to have a breakdown. So a lot of the strategies I've come up with the last couple of years, especially, I'm breaking it down further and further and further. What can someone do today? Because like on my show, I always want my guests to say, okay, what is something that people can listen to? Because most people are probably listening to this show when they're out walking the dog or out for a run, and they don't have anything to write with. Okay. So I want to give them something really simple. So maybe if you ran a mile and you're feeling kind of tired, well, stop your Apple Watch, do a couple deep breaths, then resume. It's amazing what those deep breaths will do to your whole physiology.
Yeah. And even just one breath. And I like to start with that because sometimes clients will say, like, I don't have time to take 5 minutes for a deep breath. And I think Tony Robbins says this, like, if you don't have 5 minutes, it might've been like 15 minutes or something. If you don't have that specific amount of time, you don't have a life.
Yes.
And so I just, if I have a client like that, I just say, okay, one breath, and it's the double inhale, slow exhale. So, and even me just doing that right now, recording a podcast, I get kind of, I'm excited, I'm alert. Even just doing that made me kind of calm down a little bit. And so it doesn't take, the more you do it, the better. But even just one breath to get you in that mindset to like think, okay, maybe I do need to take a break right now. Maybe I can benefit from some downtime.
And something else I want to encourage people to do, which I learned from Jay Shetty's book, is when you meditate. Okay, so let's talk about meditation for a few minutes, which I resisted for so long. You don't have to sit in the lotus position at a monastery.
Yeah.
Okay, you go out in your backyard, close your eyes, and don't worry about your breathing. Just be quiet. Just listen to the birds, listen to the wind. Just doing that will energize you.
Just
So I
be.
think part of the problem is people overcomplicate things. Just like you could be in the shower. I hope you ever take showers every day. Don't think about anything. Just I was reading the book this morning. A future guest of my show sent me. Think about, oh, I'm laving my hands. Oh, how's that feel? Oh, with the smell of the soap, the smell. Well, I don't have shampoo, but whatever the case may be, I have shaving cream because I shave my head.
Yeah.
But if you're focusing on the smell of the shaving cream, now your brain is not worrying about what you got to do later that day. It's the simple things. And I think in this world, we have gotten to we're addicted to complexity. We're addicted to being busy when our body's saying, look can we just chill right now, please? Because I promise you, Tony Robbins, as high energy as is, he takes time to be quiet. When's the last time? Here's a question for your audience. When's the last time you were quiet? Not for like 3 seconds. I mean, when's the last time you were quiet for 15, 20 minutes? Maybe you didn't meditate. Maybe you're out in the backyard, the dog's sitting at your feet, all curled up or watching for squirrels, and you're just quiet. I mean, we don't do that enough. And I'm telling you, that changes you because you're not thinking. The problem is we go out in the backyard and, okay, I got to call Taylor, I got to call John, I got to call Susie. And no, don't do that. Okay. Just be quiet. And I think when this day and age where everything's on social media and, TV, we don't take the time. And I think you should gift yourself the time of silence.
Yeah. Just be.
Yes.
Like, we're so caught up in the culture of doing. I have to go do this. I have to go do that. It's always the next thing. But sometimes you can really benefit from just doing nothing. And that's not being unproductive. Like you said, you're using that time to take a break so you don't break down later.
Yep.
And a really good book that I would recommend people, because I struggled to get into mindfulness and meditation too. And, even now it's not a daily practice. Like I definitely need to get better at that. But a book that I would recommend for people is by Jon Kabat-Zinn, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's Wherever You Go, There You Are, by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And he is the basically the father of meditation in America. And this book is so simple. It's very quick passages that I read, one passage before each meditation, and that kind of gets me in that state of mindfulness. And it's very helpful. So very quick. It's not like long chapters. So perfect for those people who say that they don't have time to take a break.
Love it.
So now let's get into sleeping, because I think that sleep is by far the best thing that you can do for your productivity. If you're sleeping less than 7 hours a night, it doesn't matter all these little hacks or strategies you use, your brain is not operating at its full potential. So what are some of the things that, well, first, let's say, how do you, I guess, convince your clients that sleep is important? Because I'm imagining you work with some, you said you work with CEOs. Those are, notoriously people who don't like sleep because they think that they're wasting time. So how do you convince them that they actually need sleep?
Well, the first thing I do is I say neuroscience. Very smart people said your body needs 7 to 9 hours sleep a night. Okay. Not once in a while,
not
every
maybe.
single night.
Yeah.
This is proven by science. And so the body likes consistency. I highly recommend people read Dr. Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. Phenomenal book. The body not only likes 7 to 9 hours of sleep, it likes it consistently. So 8 o'clock, screens off. 9 o'clock, I'm in bed. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. 7 days a week. A lot of people go, whoa, what about the weekends? I want to stay up all night and party. I said, do you want to stay well or do you want to party? Now, once in a while, you can do it. But if I have trouble sleeping and, like, say I go to bed at 9, I fall asleep at 11:30, 12 o'clock. If my Apple Watch goes off and I'm like, okay, I'm still exhausted, I will turn the Apple Watch off and go back to bed. That's very rare. because my body knows I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. The body likes consistency. This is proven by neuroscience. So not Sunday through Thursday, going to bed at reasonable and getting up at Monday through Friday reasonable. It means 7 days a week. You go to bed at the same time, 7 days a week, get up at the same time. Now, if you don't believe me, try it. Try it. Your body loves consistency. And I fought this, Taylor. I fought it. And because I read Robin Sharma's book, The 5 a.m. Club. I say, well, let me try it. And I'll be doggone. After about 3 or 4 weeks, my body got in its rhythm. In bed at 9, up at 5. And in bed at 9, up at 5. 7 days a week. And people go, you get up on Sunday mornings at 5 o'clock in the morning? I said, not only that, but the one thing I wasn't doing all last year, February 4th, 2020, is when I decided to go the 5 a.m. Club, I didn't do one thing that Robin suggested, and that is you move in the first 15 minutes of the day. It purges the cortisol. Because what I would do is I would go read. I would read and plan and all sorts of stuff. And then I would go for a run after the sun came out. But I said, well, okay, let me try this. So Christmas Day, I decided I'm going to get up, and we have a little double cul-de-sac. So I walk around my block. It's 0.2 miles around the block. And I would walk for 20 minutes. And I swear to you, when I came back and opened the Bible, everything was crystal clear. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor, and he does, it's clear, 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 clear.
Mm-hmm.
Like after a while, like, I can't tell. It was like, it went from like out of focus to super focus because I woken up. I don't like walking out at 5:15 in the morning, especially in Sundays, because a lot of weird people may still be up. And on New Year's Day was really weird because people don't go to bed until sunrise. But most times I've never had a problem with it. I put my reflective vest on and walk around. When it's cold, it's kind of weird. I'm wearing the hoodie and people go, who's this guy walking around the neighborhood? But my neighbors know I'm out there now. But it's really important. It's really important because if you're not getting enough sleep, and I wear an Apple Watch. I use an app called Auto Sleep, which whenever I go to sleep, whether it's at night or if I take a nap, which is very rare, it tracks my sleep. It tells me deep sleep. It tells me REM. You need to know. Because again, remember we talked about stories in our head? You need to know. And now there's technology that allows you to know how you're really sleeping. You don't have to go to sleep center and you don't have to wonder. You can actually know. So if you're not sure, you don't have to get an Apple Watch. There's a lot of apps that'll just use the microphone of your phone that plugged in and does the sound waves to make sure if you're moving around or whatnot. Word to wise, if you use your phone, make sure it stays plugged in, because I learned this firsthand. You don't plug it in, it will drain the battery overnight. So note to self. But yeah, those are my thoughts on sleeping.
I'm glad you brought up the point on consistency, because I mean, this might not necessarily pertain 100% to my audience because they're not the 9-to-5 crew. I'm sure some people listening are, but if you have a 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday, you get, relatively good or relatively not good sleep those days because you're busy, you're stressed out, whatever. And then you try to quote unquote catch up on the weekends. That's not great because, like you mentioned, the consistency, your body has a circadian rhythm to where it gets used to going to bed at 9, waking up at 5. And then once you get into that rhythm, your body knows it. And let's say you sleep in 2 hours later till 7, your body's like, wait, what's going on? Like, now we got to reset to this schedule. And so that's why a lot of times people have a very hard time waking up on Monday, is because their circadian rhythm is all out of whack because they slept in on the weekend. And consistency is huge. And what gets tracked gets improved. So 100%. That's why I have my clients get a sleep tracker, because it really does make a difference. Even if we don't change anything, like even if you just get the sleep tracker, you don't know any other sleep tips or anything, you track it and it starts to become a kind of game. You're like, okay, I got 6 hours this night. I'm going to try to get in bed a half hour earlier. And then you just keep that going until you finally start feeling good.
And by the way, science has proven that you cannot catch up on your sleep. That's not how the body works. So if you sleep 6 hours for 5 days, you can't sleep an extra 5 hours on the weekend. The body does not work that. Dr. Matthew Walker points out in his book. There's no, that doesn't exist. That's I'll catch up sleep when I'm dead, or you will catch up sleep when you're dead, but I'll catch up on my sleep this weekend or vacation. The body doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. What you're doing, to your point, you're confusing the body. Set a time. And you could do this if you have kids, if you're a night owl, if you're a morning person. There's 24 hours in a day. You can make this work.
Wait, so are you telling me that there's no excuses?
There's no excuses. I'm making sure that's very clear. I don't want to hear, well, no. Listen, I have not stayed up for New Year's Eve. I'm 55 years young now. I think since I was like 29, I'm like, it's just another day. No, I'm not going to stay up to 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to do that.
Not that that's a bad thing, right? Like if that's not done consistently, right? Like I think it's important to have fun every once in a while. And if having fun, if that entails or that requires spending a few extra hours out with your friends, absolutely go for it. But make sure that, and I would say a hack for anybody who does that, make sure you still wake up at the same time the next morning so you can keep that cycle going.
It won't be easy.
No, it's not going to be easy, but that will help keep that circadian rhythm.
And what you can do, though, if that does happen, Taylor, is something I learned, is you get to bed at 1 and you get to 5. Well, you could take a nap between 12 and 2, and that won't affect your circadian rhythm. So it gets you the rest of the day. But don't, Dr. Walker says, make sure you get up before 3 and don't have caffeine after 2. I don't have any caffeine. Okay.
Yep.
Because caffeine's got like a really long half-life. So you can stay up, get 4 hours sleep, take a cup. Maybe if you're working the corporate world, go out in your car at lunchtime, take a 45-minute nap to get you the rest of the day. And then your body eventually get back on course. But don't sleep in, because like you said, you're going to confuse the body. Okay, is this our new sleep routine? And your body's pretty quick adapting. And if you mess it up, it's going to think you're changing again.
Yeah. And for everybody who doesn't know, caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours and a quarter life of 12 hours. So that means 12 hours after you consume caffeine, a quarter of that caffeine will still be in your system. And if you say that doesn't affect your sleep, okay, get a sleep tracker and we'll see how much how much quality sleep you're getting, because it affects your quality of sleep. It just does. It's a fact.
Yeah, we don't want to care about your opinions. We want facts.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So assuming somebody has their sleep dialed in and assuming they are taking micro breaks or Pomodoro breaks, as I like to call them, what's next? What can people do if they are getting good sleep, they are implementing these micro breaks? What could they do if they feel like something's off and they're not as productive as they could be?
When you wake up in the morning, the first thing I want you to do is get out of bed. Okay. I don't want you to do your meditation when you're asleep, when you're comfortable in your covers. I don't want you to do your praying. I want you to get up, put your feet in the floor, make your side of the bed. Now, my wife and we have a weird sleeping arrangement. It's kind of comical because she gets comfortable on the couch at night and then she falls asleep. And I know if I wake her up, that'll disrupt her sleep. So I haven't slept with my wife in a long time. That sounds horrible, but it's a joke inside our family because I'm not going to wake her up. She's falling asleep. I know it'll do it to her if I wake her up. So the first thing I do is I turn all the lights on in my bedroom. That tells my body it's time to get up. Now, if you're sleeping with someone, they're still sleeping because they're not productive like you. They're a lazy person. Just edit it now. Then don't do that. But go to the kitchen, turn all the lights on, because light tells our bodies it's time to wake up. Okay. And so a lot of people will, if they get out of bed, then they sit in the chair next to their bed and they're reading in a soft light. No, your body wants to wake up. So I encourage you to go move. Maybe do a treadmill, maybe go for a brisk walk, maybe do some, aerobic exercise, not full blown workout, but enough to raise your heart rate. That'll make a fundamental difference. I can tell you from firsthand experience, it makes a difference.
Yeah. And I'll say just from the light perspective, unless you have like these biohacked lights, which I'm sure my listeners do not, but home lighting is not optimal for waking up. Sunlight, as I'm sure is obviously the best of the best.
Yep.
And there are light producing devices that you can get. For example, I have what's called the human charger, which is basically just earbuds that go into your ears that produce bright light. You can also get the retimer glasses that you put on that introduce blue light into your eyes. But I would not recommend getting your light exposure from like your phone screen, which, we already covered, or your computer, yes, or LED lights or anything like that. So One of the things that I recommend for my clients is the cages morning ritual, and the S in that stands for sunlight. So
Yes.
real quick, I'll just go through the whole thing. It's cold exposure, because that can really help set your circadian rhythm. And also it's a mental challenge to start the day, which is fantastic. And then affirmations. So reading your core values, mission statement, all your goals, stuff like that. And then growth. So some type of learning, educational podcast, reading. The E stands for exercise. So like you said, not full blown, intense workout, but like a yoga routine, stretching, going out for a walk, stuff like that, or some light calisthenics. And then the S is sunlight. So I think the best thing that you can do is combine 3 of those into one. So the growth, listen to a podcast; the exercise, listen to a podcast while you're on a morning walk, while you're in the sunshine. And that simple thing is fantastic.
Yep. I agree 100%. And everything we talked about in the show, simple. We're not talking about going to the moon or anything like that. We're talking simple things, because you and I both know the simpler we make things, the more likely people are going to do them.
Yep.
And that's what I do with my clients. I give them one thing at a time. I know if I give them more than one, they're going to overwhelm, not do it. And so, we've given them so much to talk about. I mean, to do. And I what I always tell my listeners on my show is like, don't get overwhelmed. Everything we talked about, just pick one thing that resonates with you and go do it.
Good point.
That's the key thing, is do it. Don't go, oh, that's great. Good point Mark made. Good point Taylor made. We already know this stuff. We want you to know this stuff so you can go do it.
Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only potential power.
Yes.
It only becomes power once you implement it.
Yes.
So yes, thank you for bringing that up. Pick one thing that we said. Don't try to overwhelm you with, oh, I have to do this and this and this. And, just one thing. So what would you say from everything we talked about today? What would your one thing that people could implement be?
I'm going back to micro breaks. I mean, if you got to go to a meeting, you're not looking forward to the meeting, go take a micro break. And here's the thing: as you're walking to the meeting, you can actually do the micro break while you're walking, because you're moving. You can shut everything else out of your mind, do some deep breaths. So you walk in that room refreshed. So take as many micro breaks as you need. It'll fundamentally change your productivity.
Love it. All right, Mark, tell people where they can find more about you, your podcast, your coaching, all the good stuff.
Well, if you know how to spell Mark Struczewski, you can go to markstruczewski.com. But for the most of the world, the 99.99% of the world, I made it real easy for you. Go to MrProductivity.com, MISTER, MrProductivity.com. It'll magically transport you to MarkStruczewski.com, where you can find out how you can be a free Mark Struczewski Insider. That's my weekly email newsletter. Get my top 5 productivity tips for entrepreneurs. Get direct links to my podcast, find out about my digital productivity coaching program, which I'm really excited about, and anything else you want. So MrProductivity.com is the place to go transport yourself to my real website. And You're welcome.
Yeah. And I will include a link to that in the show notes, so people can figure that out. That's a good domain name, Mr. Productivity. I like that you got that.
And that was how funny how I got that is a couple of years ago, someone on LinkedIn gave me, said, you got to start using the hashtag Mr. Productivity. And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. And then a couple months later, like, I got to get the domain, because I started showing up on podcasts more. And even on my own podcast, I tell people, even though it's called the Mark Struczewski podcast, if you're out listening, go to markstruczewski.com. People are like, what? So I just started saying MrProductivity.com. It just takes you there. It's a lot easier, because I have people going, what? It's true. What?
Yeah.
So I try to make it easy for people. I'm hoping one of my life goals is I will be so famous, people know how to spell Struczewski, but I'm not there yet. It's a work in progress.
Yep. And you'll get there, because you're so productive.
Thank you, sir.
It's only a matter of time. All right, Mark. Well, yeah, thank you again for coming on the podcast and spreading your wisdom to my listeners. I only ask that you do take that time out of your day to implement those micro breaks, because if Mr. Productivity is suggesting that is the one thing that you do, you should probably do it. So please listen to Mr. Productivity, take those micro breaks, and any last words you want to leave them with?
No, sir. I think we've covered a lot, and I just don't want people to be overwhelmed. I want them to just take one thing we talked about, whether it was me or you, it doesn't matter. Go do it. Stop thinking about it. Go do.
No excuses. Go do. Awesome. All right. Well, and thanks again for coming on, Mark. And don't forget, live the captain's lifestyle. Peace.